Wanted to mention you can reach our program today by dialing 736-0300. That's 736-0300. Also wanted to point out, if you're having difficulty hearing us, please feel free and give my friend Dr. Christine Pickup. I saw the doctor a few weeks ago at lunch one day. Just happened to run into Dr. Pickup and her family. They're wonderful people. But she is a doctor of audiology, and she would like to open your world to new sounds and experiences. A new hearing device available which works with the brain, and that will help with hearing loss. You will be able to hear more naturally than any previous aid on the market. And she's offering a 2-week free trial period. So call today to schedule your personal fitting appointment. Open your world to better hearing. You can call Mont Harrison Audiology, 312-0957. That's 312-0957. Steve walks into the studio and we get lots of telephone calls. So we'll take a couple of those and get some reactions from people on this election day.
Yes, sir. Let's do that.
Go ahead. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Bill and Steve, Hillary helped get billions of dollars to Iran, helped Russia get uranium, and when she was co-president with Bill, they helped China improve their missile technology. She helped 3 of our most dangerous enemies. Technology.
Well,
I think that's valid points. That's interesting, and the kind of things we need to be considering. Is it okay for us to electioneer on election day?
I don't see a problem with that. We're not going into the booth with anybody.
No, we're not, and it's just a regular show. So, but it's interesting that so many of those things have come to the surface that we just, holy cow, it's going to be. It's like Rush Limbaugh said this morning on his little minute. Can we, as a nation, have we woke up to the fact that we've got all these problems out there, and now is the time for us to make the change?
Well, I hope that it gets across. We have another caller. Caller, you're up next. You're on KLIX.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm calling because we were at the polls before they were actually open. We were standing in line, and there were about 25 people. And there's 2 precincts that vote there.
Wow.
And that was at 8 o'clock this morning.
Wow.
And
nice.
Secondly, I'm curious to know, 4 years ago, when it was between, the candidates for presidency, Obama and Mitt Romney, if Ohio is going to hold out to the end and cast the vote that decides, like they did last time.
Good question.
That's interesting, and that's a fascinating question. This morning on Fox News, they had reporters in 3 different states. They had some in Wisconsin and Florida and Ohio. And then they were talking to people, and one of the comments they made about Ohio was that the early voting numbers were way higher than they were 4 years ago. And Drudge Report had an article yesterday afternoon that said almost 40% of the voters have already voted in early balloting. So, yes, they might be holdouts until the day after tomorrow to get everything sorted out. But I think we're seeing many, many more early voting constituents than we've had in previous years. Now, just as a follow-up, I voted on Friday. There's no need to do it early, and that Friday was the last day. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. So I went Friday right after the lunch hour between 1 and 1:15, something like that. The lines were not huge, but they were long. So I talked with one of the election officials, Christina Glasscock, who's the county clerk, and I said, wow, this is unusual. And she said, it's been like this all day today. And I said, holy cow. She said, on Thursday of last week, they had over 800 people vote early. The week prior to that, they had 3,500 early voters in that 1 week. And on Thursday, they had 800. On Friday, she said, we will go over 800 on Friday. So we're looking at close to 6,000 early. I mean, the thing was 2 weeks long. And so,
and the county with a population of under 100,000, right?
Yeah, we're only about 90,000, and there's only typically in Twin Falls County we will maybe get a total of 22 to 24,000 votes. So we're in the neighborhood of having somewhere in the neighborhood of 25% of the people in early voting. I went past a couple of polling places driving in this morning, and the parking lots were crowded, not full to overflowing, but crowded. And I thought to myself, and this was at the one I went past at 7:30. The other one was about a quarter to 8. And I thought to myself, holy smokes, look at these people pouring in here already to vote. So our caller just a moment ago, many people waiting in line. I think big turnouts is the key, and they're seeing that in Florida. They said that they are expecting record turnouts of voters in Florida. And I know that Fox News went to places where they could just talk to lots of Republicans, but in the one diner that they were visiting, every vote was Trump.
There weren't very many minorities in those diners, and as I say,
No,
at 5 o'clock in the morning
in the
on the East Coast.
in the one in Florida, they did have some Hispanic guests.
We've got more coming up with Steve Millington in just a couple of minutes. He's the chairman of the Twin Falls County Republican Party. It's Election Day. Bill Colley with you as well. And just a note, we will be on the air tonight at 8 o'clock with election results from Fox and, of course, our local crew. We've got callers, coming in from every direction this morning. So just to quickly remind you, you're listening to News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Steve Millington is the Twin Falls County Republican chairman. He's in studio with us. Bill Colley as well on Top Story. Caller, thank you for your patience. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Good morning.
Bill, this isn't even a first-time call, long-time listener. It's election day. I want to hear what's going on, and I flipped over to the AM side of the dial, and to my surprise, the first thing I hear is your regret over the Monday Night Football game last night. Huge Buffalo fan here. Are you from the area? I'm in Twin Falls. I don't see too many Western New Yorkers here. What's the story?
I grew up about 50 miles outside of Buffalo, so there you go.
Give me the come on, give me the town, brother. I grew up in Spencerport. My family's from Angola in Erie County. I know this is boring to your listeners. They don't want to hear who I vote.
That's Monroe County, right?
That's just outside of Rochester, yes.
Yeah, I grew up in a small town called Cuba, which is on the Allegheny-Cattaraugus lines. After my dad, he got bored working for Ford Stamping in Lackawanna and headed south and settled there and met my mother. So there you go.
That's great. You know, I don't have anything. I have very little in common with you politically, I think, based on the little bit I've heard. But, you know, this is a great reminder that regardless of who you vote for today and who the people that are close to you in life vote for, there's always something that has a common bond that you can talk about and not be so acrimonious about. I know that this election has really it's taxed me with regards to some of the relationships I have with people, but at the end, I'm always reminded that the people that I was already close to, I'm close with them because I have a lot more in common with them than I don't. And I'm not interested in one election ruining all that. So a little public service announcement, I guess, for your listeners. There's a lot more to life than just an election.
I agree with that, and I thank you. Although last night, I after that ball game, all I wanted to think about was the politics. So it was, but aside from that, he brings up a good point, because Fox last night had a piece on about a woman. She went to a Clinton rally in a Trump T-shirt and said she had a lost dog. Could someone help her find the owner? And then vice versa, put on the Clinton T-shirt and went to the Trump rally, and the dog united everybody.
Yeah, the difference was that the Clinton T-shirt at the Trump rally, she had workers, helpers that were willing to help her with her dilemma, her problem. That was not quite so obvious at the Clinton rally.
It did come about, but it took a little longer.
It took a lot longer.
Right.
You're right.
We have another caller looking to join us. And caller, you're next. You're on the air on KLIX with Steve and Bill. Go ahead.
Good morning.
Good morning, Bill. You said to give you some reports. Just got done voting in Hazleton, small town, but they said they had a pretty good turnout first thing this morning, and every booth was full. So as people were leaving, people were coming in. No line, but a steady flow. And, you know, I could not believe how many people were on that ballot for president. Every acronym in the world's on that dang ballot for president. That can cause some problems.
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how that all shucks down when we get to the end of the deal here.
I want to squeeze another caller in very quickly, and then
Let's do that.
we
Good
got a
morning.
couple of thoughts on some local races. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Good morning, gentlemen. I hear a lot of kind of angst this morning over the election that's going on, and I just kind of wanted to offer some words of encouragement instead to the people out there as I encourage them to get out and vote. Being 67 years old, I've witnessed a lot of stuff in this country, from presidential assassinations to a Cuban Missile Crisis to 50,000 servicemen and women dying in Vietnam, and integration battles, other assassinations, landing a man on the moon, students getting killed at Kent State. Witnessed a lot of stuff, and the one thing I've noticed, along with a president that resigned and one that wasn't even elected, we survived, we endured, and no matter what happens today, we're strong, and I think we will endure whatever happens today.
I think that's the sun will come up tomorrow.
The sun will come up tomorrow, and there is a strong resolve in the American populace that says this is still the greatest country on earth, and we have great opportunities and responsibilities, but they always seem to rise to the occasion and carry us forward. So it's it's not the end of the world. It just may seem like it. I've been a nervous wreck the last 2 or 3 days trying to make sure we get things covered and answering phone calls and where can I find my polling place, and do you have any more signs that I can put out, and it's just never-ending process here.
And then it's not all. It's some of the news. It's tough to you almost need a little bit of a cough syrup to take it down today. But there was a story that I found very funny this morning out of Idaho Falls. Apparently, somebody took a picture of the beer case at a grocery store, and they had a sign up saying that you won't be able to buy beer today because it's election day. Well, turns out that that's not true. In Idaho Falls, the only day you can't buy beer, according to the city, is Christmas Day. And of course, state law says, I think Thanksgiving is in there too as well. So they were wondering, of course, a lot of the cities had these these were laws in the past, but there's a concern that people might get liquored up and go vote, and then
vote maybe 2 or 3 times.
And then we'll have the communists in charge or something.
I think that's a throwback to I don't know what it's a throwback to, but it's an interesting thing. No,
but the store apparently didn't. Somebody hadn't yet gotten up to speed with the current laws, so they put up the sign, "No beer sales today." So I guess that's hurting their own bottom line.
Yeah, they will be sorry. Their revenues for the day will shrink dramatically.
It's 8:50, and we want to point out you're listening to News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. 37, Steve Millington in studio with me, Bill Colley. Of course, Steve is the chairman of the Twin Falls County Republican Party. We got to mention one race. It pits 2 Republicans against each other today because it's a runoff for a state Supreme Court seat.
That's right.
I like both Kurt McKenzie and, of course, Robin
Brody,
who's running here in the she's from this area.
Yes, she is.
But the differences, I think, between the two is Kurt is a man whose voice is very important in the legislature, and I hate to see it lost there. And when I talked to Robin at the fair, I got the impression that she is, number one, brilliant, but she's got a really good disposition for this role. And she, at that time, had put 22,000 miles on her car campaigning, and I'm sure it's probably close to double that now.
Yeah.
Right.
I have heard several comments that she has visited every county in the state of Idaho on her campaign tour. And there was an interesting facts that I got from Grant Loeb's, just comparing the two of them. And I think it was the Idaho Bar Association, but I could be wrong on the reference. But there's a comparison thing that the attorneys turn in, rating the various candidates for Supreme Court. And the rating scale is 1 to 4. And Robin was in the high 3s, like 3.7 to 3.8, on every single category of evaluation. But McKenzie never got above 2.0. So Brody was ahead by a minimum of 1.7 points on a 4-point scale, which is a huge differential. I mean, if the scale is 0 to 4, and I've got 3.8 and you got 1.7, wow. I won by a long ways.
Both lawyers, but as I understand it, she has considerably more experience in court.
Yep. As a court attorney, she spends a lot of time adjudicating things in the courtroom, day to day, facing the issues. And frankly, a Supreme Court justice, that's all they do. They evaluate court cases. And so the courtroom exposure, it comes through very strongly in that situation.
I also had a chance to meet her kids at the fair, and you can tell that they've had some good parenting because they're very nice young men. And if you want to know a little bit about the individual, you look at the children they raise, and so
Uh-oh.
she's done a good job there.
She really has. I don't have any qualms or reservations of telling the folks out there that I voted for Robin Rhodey.
We have one race on the national level that doesn't get the attention that the presidential race is getting. I wanted you to also comment about this today. This is the governor of North Carolina, Pat McCrory, who is facing a strong challenge over the so-called bathroom bill in his state. I still don't understand why anyone would vote in favor of it because he's standing in the way of it, obviously. But take a listen to his comments this morning.
Actually, it didn't benefit her.
He's talking about Hillary Clinton coming to his state, too.
Actually, it didn't benefit her in North Carolina. The turnout models for North Carolina are working against Hillary Clinton at this point in time. And so we're very pleased with the turnout. We've got more independents voting, more Republicans voting, and fewer Democrats voting in early voting in North Carolina. Yep. Today's the difference, though, between 6:30 and 7:30 right here in North Carolina. What you're seeing with Hillary, last night she had a rally with Bon Jovi and Lady Gaga. She's getting the kind of the elite to vote for her, offering free university education. I think Mr. Trump and myself and Richard Burr are getting the hardworking men and women of North Carolina to get out and vote. And many of them are voting that haven't voted in the past.
Richard Burr being the U.S. Senator who's looking for re-election. But I can't believe that anything would be that close. I would think that overwhelmingly the public would look at his stand on this bathroom bill. Who cares if the NBA says that won't play an all-star game there? This is about your children's safety in locker rooms and public toilets.
Well, and there was an article that I read yesterday on Red State Morning Briefing, and that's wrong. Town Hall, and they went through. The writer was a resident of North Carolina, and went through a long list of things that have occurred, primarily job placements, since this bathroom bill dilemma showed up in North Carolina. And she said, if North Carolina is so awful and so terrible and everybody hate us, why did this company bring 300 jobs? And why did this one bring 200 jobs? And why did this one bring 1,000? And why all to North Carolina? Since the bathroom bill dilemma showed up down there, all these companies have announced relocation or additions to existing operations in the state of North Carolina. And she said, surely somebody can figure out that the elitists and the liberal elements are off base on this thing.
This is what worries me about the presidential election, because a vote for Hillary Clinton means that they will try to enshrine PC culture. Donald Trump had an ad out about how she's trying to force the Washington Redskins to change the team name.
Yeah.
Which has not flown even among liberals in the Washington area who are so...
Yeah, they're Redskins fans.
Right. They will, and they don't even like that type of push. But this is that these people feel that everyone else has to be forced to comply with their views about the world.
The politically correct environment subscribes to the idea that you only have one choice, and that is to agree with them. And if you don't agree with them, then shame on you. And the political correct culture then slams down on any voices of opposition or any other voice that wants to hear a debate or a, quote, conversation on political issues. They can't stand that kind of public presence, the light shining on their issues. They want to shut them down and diminish them and deflect, defame. What is the Democrats always are doing? Because when you look at things in the full broad spectrum of daylight and evaluate them carefully, many of these liberal, politically correct ideas don't stand up the test. And so, for example, in North Carolina, North Carolina will be a very interesting test point. Did the politically correct element win or lose? And one of the places where we'll be able to measure that very quickly is going to be North Carolina. They have a governor, they have a United States senator, one other person, I can't remember who it was.
We've got to mention that tonight, one of our analysts for our election coverage right here at the radio station is going to be a fellow by the name of Jim Risch. You may have heard of him.
Gee whiz, a United States Senator, Jim Risch?
And we may actually get in touch with you over the telephone while you're at the party and just see if we can't get you on the air,
I will try to be checking in with you often through the night so we can kind of stay in touch. I have a conflict. I've got to be over to the Republican Party at the Planning and Zoning Conference Room in the County West Building, so I cannot be here with you, but we'll have a good time, and we'll stay in touch.
All right, we've got more coming up. One more hour of top story just ahead after Fox News at 9 o'clock.
Get out and vote.